I'd always told myself I was good at respecting boundaries. When my daughter Emily married Ryan Mitchell 5 years ago, I smiled through the grand ceremony even though I had doubts. I kept quiet when she and Ryan moved into his family's estate instead of making their own home, and I stayed silent as she slowly gave up the journalism career she'd once loved. Emily was 32, an adult who could make her own choices. Who was I to interfere? Before we go any further, if my story has found you, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to see just how far my words can travel. But driving through a Christmas Eve snowstorm, gripping the wheel until my hands ached, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. My daughter had gone from calling me daily to barely replying to texts. The bold reporter who once took on corrupt politicians now checked with her husband before speaking. The last straw came 3 days earlier. A message not from Emily but from Ryan. Emily is committed to Mitchell family traditions this year. Perhaps you can visit after the holidays if our schedule allows. Our schedule? As if my own daughter needed permission to see me. The storm worsened as I wound through the roads of Brookline, toward the Mitchells' massive estate. The gates, oddly open, let me drive straight in. The mansion glowed against the snowy dark, smoke curling from its chimneys. I was about to park when I spotted a lone figure on the walkway. Even through the storm I knew that posture instantly, Emily. But she was sitting outside in a cocktail dress, no coat, shivering violently. I ran toward her, slipping on the ice. Emily, what are you doing out here? Her lips were blue, her face vacant until she finally focused on me. Mom, she whispered, voice weak. I wrapped my coat around her shoulders. How long? An hour, maybe 2, she mumbled. 2 hours in this weather. My stomach twisted. Why are you outside? I asked. Her eyes flicked toward the house. I questioned Douglas's business at dinner. Ryan said I had to reflect before I could return. Through the windows I saw the Mitchells laughing by the fire, drinks in hand, not caring that Emily was freezing outside. This isn't discipline, it's cruelty, I told her. He shivered. It's their way. Women are expected to obey. I helped her stand. Can you walk? She leaned on me, whispering, but Ryan will be furious. And Douglas, I'm not asking permission from any Mitchell man, I cut her off. You're coming inside to warm up. She didn't argue, which scared me most of all. The Emily I knew would have fought. Inside, the warmth hit us like fire. The music suddenly seemed too loud as the room fell silent. Ryan's expression shifted from shock to that polished concern he wore so well. Emily, darling, he said smoothly, moving toward us, pretending to care. I was just about to check on you, Ryan said smoothly. Have you had time to reconsider? She's freezing, I cut in before Emily could answer. She needs warmth, maybe even a doctor, not a lecture. Douglas Mitchell rose then, tall, silver-haired, his cold eyes barely masking irritation. Pauline, he said, offering only a curt nod. This is an intrusion. Emily knows there are consequences for disrespect in this household. Consequences? My voice sharpened. You left her outside in a snowstorm. She could have lost her life over a dinner disagreement. Ryan stepped forward, possessive hand on Emily's shoulder. Mom, you don't understand our family. Emily and I should talk privately. But when I looked at my daughter, really looked, I saw more than her shaking from the cold. Her spirit trembled too. The confident woman I once knew was nearly gone. I realized then, I wasn't leaving without her. I stood tall and met Douglas's gaze. I wasn't just Emily's mother now. I was a woman who had spent decades navigating corporate power and spotting weaknesses in empires like theirs. Drawing Emily close, I stared down each Mitchell in turn before speaking 5 words. I know about Project Prometheus. The effect was instant. Douglas paled, Ryan froze, his brothers exchanged worried looks. Even the wives glanced up in surprise. That name was their buried secret. Shell companies, offshore accounts, millions hidden away. I'd uncovered it years earlier while researching the family, hoping I'd never need to use it. We're leaving, I said into the silence. Emily needs care. No one moved to stop us. The drive to the hotel was brutal, snow piling faster than the wipers cleared. Emily's teeth chattered despite my coat and an emergency blanket. You need a hospital, I urged. No hospitals, she whispered, voice steadier but still fragile. Please, Mom. I just need warmth. No questions right now. I wanted to argue, but her eyes begged me not to. The Rosewood Inn has rooms, I said, keeping my focus on the road. She stayed silent, staring at the storm until finally, how did you know? About Prometheus. I parked under the hotel awning and turned to her. I'm a consultant, Emily. When you got engaged, I researched the Mitchells. I wanted to know who my daughter was marrying. Her eyes widened. You investigated them? I looked into their business, I corrected. Ryan was controlling even back then. I needed to understand what we were dealing with. That's how I found Prometheus. Accounts in the Caymans, shell companies overseas, buried settlements for environmental violations. They built their fortune on corruption, all while posing as respectable. Emily gave a small, bitter laugh. Douglas would call that smart business. Douglas will justify anything, I said, even leaving you to freeze as so-called discipline. Emily flinched, curling into herself. You don't understand their family. Then explain it, I pressed. Because it looks like emotional abuse dressed up as tradition. The word abuse hung heavy between us. Her eyes watered, but she shook her head. Let's go inside, she whispered. Not here. The Rosewood Inn glowed warm and welcoming. Fireplaces crackling, Christmas decorations elegant but not overdone. The night manager took one look at Emily, pale and shaken, and upgraded us to a suite. Room service is still available, he added gently. Emily disappeared into the bathroom, the shower blasting hot water. I ordered soup, bread, hot tea, comfort food to warm her through. When she came out wrapped in a robe, her cheeks had color again, her hair loose and damp. She almost looked like my old Emily. Better? I asked, pouring mulled wine. Much, she said, sipping slowly. Thank you for knowing I needed you. She curled up in a chair, knees tucked under like when she was a teenager. For a fleeting moment, it felt like the old nights we used to talk about everything. But the haunted look in her eyes told me the truth. When did it start? The control, the isolation. At first, Ryan was wonderful, she said. Supportive, interested in my work. But after the wedding it shifted. Little comments. My friends were too progressive, journalism was too stressful. Douglas would remind me what Mitchell women should prioritize. By our first anniversary, dinners with them every night. By the second, I'd cut my hours and lost friends. By the third, I'd quit my job and lived fully under their roof. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. They made it clear you weren't acceptable. Your independence, your divorce. Everything about you was wrong for their standards. Ryan said your influence made it harder for me to adapt to real family life. The cruelty stung, but I stayed focused. And tonight? What pushed them to put you outside? Her shoulders tightened. Douglas bragged about a condo project. They're evicting low-income residents with minimal payout, bribing officials to speed things up. I suggested maybe they think about ethics, not just profits. A small, wry smile crossed her face. He didn't like that. Said women shouldn't meddle in business. Ryan told me I had to reflect on my place before I could return. I clenched my jaw. And if you'd gotten frostbite? Would that be acceptable collateral damage? She didn't answer. A knock interrupted us. Room service. As I set soup on the table, Emily checked her phone. Her expression tightened. 27 texts from Ryan. 5 from Douglas. They're furious. I imagine so, I said, sliding the bowl toward her. Eat first, I told Emily. We'll deal with the Mitchells tomorrow. She hesitated, thumb hovering over her phone. What if they come here? Ryan can be very persuasive. Let him try, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my tone. I've spent 30 years guiding companies through crises. I can handle one family of corrupt businessmen. As Emily ate, color returned to her cheeks. The daughter-eyed raised, sharp, compassionate, independent, was still there beneath the layers of control. And I was determined to bring her back. Christmas morning dawned clear and bright, the storm gone. Emily was still asleep, peaceful for the first time in years. I ordered breakfast, then opened my laptop. If the Mitchells retaliated, and I had no doubt they would, I needed to be ready. Project Prometheus was my leverage. I'd stored the files 5 years ago. Falsified studies, offshore transfers timed with shady zoning decisions, shell companies circling back to Douglas Mitchell. I was so absorbed I didn't notice Emily until she spoke. You really do have everything, she said hoarsely. Evidence that could ruin them. I shut the laptop. In daylight I saw how fragile she'd become. Hollow cheeks, dark circles, the wariness in her eyes. I do, I admitted, gesturing to the table. I compiled it when you got engaged, then updated it through contacts. Why didn't you use it? She asked, pouring coffee. Stop the wedding. Warn me. I measured my words. Would you have believed me? You were in love. Ryan showed you what you wanted to see. If I'd presented evidence back then, you'd have thought I was trying to sabotage your happiness. She considered, then nodded. You're right. I would have chosen him. And that's exactly what they wanted. What do you mean? I asked. It's how they work. They isolate the women who marry in, especially from strong mothers or sisters who might notice. Eleanor told me once, after too much wine, that Douglas spent years turning her against her own mother. She's been the perfect Mitchell wife ever since, polished, polite, always deferential. And the others? I pressed. Diane and Jennifer went through the same. First they cut you off from support. Then they chip away at your confidence. Finally they enforce rules and punishments. Like breaking a horse. Anger burned hot in me, but I kept my face calm. No one leaves. There was one, Meredith, Richard's first wife. She tried a decade ago. They destroyed her. Got her fired, dragged her through custody battles, smeared her reputation until she disappeared. Richard kept their son. He barely remembers her now. The cruelty stole my breath. A family that preached morals while practicing psychological warfare. Your phone's been buzzing all morning, I said, nodding toward it. Emily glanced at the screen. 20 texts. Ryan. Douglas. Even Eleanor, Richard, and Michael. They're not letting this go. Emily didn't check her phone. They'll be crafting a united front. The Mitchells always close ranks. Are you afraid of them? I asked. Yes, she admitted, her voice firming. But I'm more afraid of going back, of who I've become there. For the first time I saw resolve shining through her fear. What do you want, Emily? This has to be your choice. She stared out at the snowlit morning, then turned back, her jaw set. I want out. Not just for Christmas. For good. I want a divorce, and nothing more to do with any Mitchell. They won't make it easy, I warned. You've seen what happened to Meredith. I know, she said, leaning forward, a spark of her old fire returning. That's why I need your help and your evidence. Before I could respond, a sharp knock rattled the door. Emily froze. It's them. Let them come, I said steadily. We knew they would. Through the peephole I saw Ryan, polished as ever, and Douglas, towering in his camel coat. A third man, clearly a lawyer, stood with them. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Pauline, Douglas said curtly. We've come for Emily. This misunderstanding should be handled privately. She's not receiving visitors, I replied smoothly. Ryan stepped closer, his smile thin. I understand you're concerned. But Emily is my wife. She belongs at home, especially on Christmas. Where women are punished with snowstorms for speaking their mind. I cut in, voice still even. Douglas's jaw clenched. My daughter's welfare is absolutely my concern, I continued. And Emily has made her choice. I want to hear that from her, Ryan insisted, craning to look past me. Emily appeared at my side, jeans and sweater replacing the perfect Mitchell wife image. Pale but steady, she lifted her chin. I'm not coming home, Ryan. Not today, not ever. His mask cracked, the control flashing through. Don't be ridiculous. Your place is with me, with our family. The family that left me outside in the cold for daring to speak? Her voice strengthened. I finally see what my place in your family is, and I want no part of it. Douglas loomed over us. This is your mother's influence. One night with her and you throw away 5 years of values. Emily didn't waver. What last night showed me is that real love doesn't look like control. And real family doesn't mean cruelty. The lawyer stepped forward. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Edward Harrington, Family Counsel. Leaving without cause can be seen as abandonment. It could affect your settlement. Without cause. I snapped. She was left outside in freezing weather as punishment. That's cause enough. A family disagreement mischaracterized, he countered smoothly. And there are no witnesses. Emily's hand gripped mine tight. I squeezed back, silent but certain. She wasn't alone anymore. This conversation is over, I said flatly. Emily has made her decision. Respect it. This isn't over, Ryan snapped, his mask of concern gone. Think about what you're throwing away. Is that a threat? I asked coolly. Douglas's hand gripped his son's arm. A reminder. Choices have consequences. Emily knows how we protect our interests. And I've protected my daughter her whole life, I countered. Maybe it's time you understand what that means. With that, I shut the door and locked it. Emily sagged against the wall. They'll be back with more lawyers. Maybe even police. Let them come, I said, opening my laptop. We'll be ready. They didn't realize they'd just declared war on a strategist who never lost. We need to move, I added, already packing. They'll try something fast. Custody hearings, wellness checks with their friends in uniform. Emily threw clothes in a bag. Where? They know your place in Cambridge. Not there. A colleague has an apartment in Back Bay. She's in London. We'll use it. While Emily packed, I made 3 calls. First, securing the apartment. Second, to Marcus Delgado, a top digital security expert. Third, to Diane Abernathy, the fiercest divorce lawyer I knew. It's Christmas, Emily said, incredulous. How do you pull this off? Because in 25 years I've built a reputation. Never ask for favors unless it's vital and always repay them. I glanced at my phone. Diane will meet us in 2 hours. We slipped out the hotel's service exit. My silver Volvo blended in among dozens of cars. A black SUV idled at the entrance. Mitchell surveillance, no doubt. They're watching the front, Emily murmured. Not expecting us to move this fast, I replied, taking a winding route through the city. That's the first advantage of men like them. They underestimate women. She gave me a sidelong look. Douglas always dismissed you as lucky. Just a consultant. Another advantage, I said. Being underestimated makes it easier to win. The Back Bay apartment was sleek and secure. Keycard elevators, a 24-hour doorman, and a discreet side entrance. Marcus arrived minutes later, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Damn, Pauline. Christmas Day extractions? This is some Jason Bourne stuff. This is my daughter, Emily, I said. She needs your help. Emily handed him her phone. If they planted spyware. Almost guaranteed, Marcus interrupted, already plugging it in. Given what your mom told me, I'd be shocked if they hadn't. While he worked, I prepared her for Diane. She's not warm, but she's brutal. She specializes in powerful men who think money shields them. Will she take me on? I don't have access to funds anymore. Ryan controls everything. She owes me and she hates financial control games. Trust me, she'll take you. Got it, Marcus said finally, frowning at the screen. 2 tracking apps, plus full surveillance of your calls, texts, even your camera and mic. They've been watching everything. Emily's face drained of color. They've been listening to my calls, maybe even watching me, Emily whispered. Yes, Marcus confirmed. And worse, your Apple ID has been sharing your location with 3 Mitchell accounts. The surveillance is total. Emily sank onto the sofa, trembling. Can you stop it? I'll remove everything, but you'll need a full reset. New phone, new accounts, Marcus said, typing rapidly. I'll also set up encrypted channels and fake trails to throw them off. 40 minutes later, Diane swept in. Even on Christmas she was flawless. Tall, silver streak in her dark hair, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Pauline, she greeted before turning to Emily. And you must be the woman escaping Boston's most hypocritical family. Emily blinked. You know the Mitchells? I've had the misfortune, Diane said dryly, dropping her briefcase on the table. I've faced them in 3 divorces. Their playbook is always the same. Character assassination, financial strangulation, intimidation. Your mother says you want a clean break. No mediation. Yes, Emily said firmly. I won't go back. Good. Clarity helps. Diane powered up her tablet. Tell me everything. For an hour, Emily laid out 5 years of control and isolation. Her voice grew steadier, as if naming the abuse loosened its hold. Diane listened, jotting notes, asking pointed questions. Classic high-control system, she concluded. They operate like a cult. Douglas the leader, daughters-in-law the recruits. To beat them we need leverage. I opened my laptop. Project Prometheus. Offshore accounts, bribes, environmental crimes. Enough to spark federal investigations. Diane's smile was razor-sharp. Perfect leverage. But once they know we have this, they'll attack your credibility. Which means we establish mental competence immediately and file an emergency restraining order tonight. They'll deny it, Emily said. It's my word against theirs. Not exactly, I reminded her. Their mansion is covered in cameras. The footage may still exist. Maybe, Marcus said. High-end systems back up to the cloud. I can try to access it. Focus on legal angles first, Diane cut in. We'll use witnesses. Pauline, your statement about finding Emily in the snow. Marcus, what you observed at the hotel. Combined, it's strong. Emily looked around the room, wonder in her expression. They always told me I had no one but them. That without the Mitchell name I was nothing. I clasped her cold hands. They lied. You've always been more than enough. Diane checked her watch. The on-call judge is Alexandra Winters. Fair, thorough, not swayed by family traditions. If we file within 2 hours, she'll review it, even on Christmas. By nightfall we had our first victory. Judge Winters granted the restraining order at 7:42 p.m. Diane's network-insured copies were delivered to the Mitchell mansion and served directly to Ryan before 9. Temporary, 10 days of protection, but a boundary nonetheless. For the first time in years, Emily was legally untouchable. They'll fight this, Emily said, tugging the oversized sweater I'd bought her. After 5 years of Mitchell-approved designer outfits, she was finally reaching for comfort, soft fabrics, simple cuts, nothing like Ryan's curated wardrobe. Of course they'll fight, Diane agreed. But that means testifying under oath why it's acceptable to leave a woman outside in a snowstorm as punishment. Marcus looked up from his laptop. Speaking of evidence, I found something. Their security system auto-sends daily reports to their head of security, Miles Fisher. Ex-military loyal to Douglas. But predictable passwords. I accessed his email. He turned the screen toward us. Images appeared, Emily on the walkway, shivering in the snow, timestamped 7:24 p.m. She'd been out there well over an hour. Send it to me, Diane ordered. They can't deny this now. Emily stared at the photo, voice low. When you're living it, you convince yourself it's normal. Looking at this, it's abuse. And not the first time, I added grimly. She nodded. Usually isolation, locked in my room, left out of family dinners. This was just the first time it was physical danger. Escalation, Diane muttered, tapping notes. Classic control pattern. My phone rang, unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but not tonight. Pauline Harper. Detective James Morales, Boston PD. We received a welfare check request for your daughter, Emily Mitchell. Her husband reported concerns about her mental state and coercion. And so it begins. I caught Diane's eye. She nodded knowingly. My daughter is safe, detective. She's with me under an emergency restraining order issued earlier today. Pause. May I speak with Mrs. Mitchell directly? I handed the phone to Emily. Her voice was steady. This is Emily Mitchell. I'm safe. I left last night after being forced to sit outside for over an hour in freezing weather as punishment. I have legal representation and a restraining order you can verify with Judge Winters. The only danger I face is from my husband's family. After a short exchange, she ended the call. They're sending officers to confirm, she said. Good, Diane approved. Let them document everything. 30 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. A calm veteran woman and a younger man awed by the building. They spoke with Emily privately, then with me, leaving satisfied she was safe and sound. One attempt neutralized, I said once the door closed. They'll try again, Emily warned. Different angles. They have contacts everywhere. Right on cue, Marcus's system pinged. Incoming. The Mitchell lawyer just filed an emergency petition, alleging temporary insanity and undue influence. They're requesting an emergency psych evaluation and temporary guardianship for Ryan, Marcus reported. On what grounds? Diane snapped, already dialing. Marcus skimmed. Claims Emily's unstable, estranged from her mother, and that Pauline triggered a break with reality. They say Pauline has a vendetta against the Mitchells and manipulated her. Predictable, Diane scoffed. Easily countered. We already scheduled an independent evaluation. Judge Winters won't hand over guardianship without proof. While Diane worked, I sat beside Emily. She held herself steady, but I could see the weight pressing on her. Rest if you can, I urged. Not yet. There's something you need to know about Project Prometheus. I leaned in. Go on. Her eyes sharpened, that old reporter spark flickering. Your documents are just the surface. Douglas keeps a master database. Every bribe shell company offshore account. Only he and his sons can access it. How do you know? I never stopped watching, Emily whispered. 3 months ago I overheard Ryan and Richard talking. Later I saw Ryan log into a password-protected file. The reflection in the window showed enough. Account numbers, names of officials, dates. Everything. If we could access that, I began. It's the ultimate leverage, she finished. But it's in Douglas's home office. Nearly impossible to reach. Not entirely, Marcus said, joining us. Every system has weaknesses. It's just a matter of finding them before the Mitchells escalate. Diane ended her call looking grimly satisfied. Judge Winters will review our evidence before deciding on guardianship. Crisis averted for now. But this is just the opening round. They're mobilizing everything. Then we mobilize ours, I said. Pulling out my phone, I dialed a number I rarely used. Jonathan Price, investigative journalist at the Boston Globe and one of Emily's former colleagues. He answered on the second ring. Pauline Harper? It's been years. What's going on? It's Christmas, Jonathan. Emily needs your help. She left Ryan Mitchell and his family is retaliating hard. Jesus, he muttered. I always wondered. Emily was one of the best we had. Then suddenly she quits for the corporate wife life. Never made sense. Can you meet us tonight? Text me the address. I'll be there. When I hung up, Emily stared at me, hope mixed with nerves. You called Jonathan? I thought everyone had moved on. No. Ryan screened your calls, your messages. Jonathan tried to reach you. You just never knew. Her face fell, realizing yet another layer of the Mitchells' control. They hadn't just isolated her. They'd erased her connections. 45 minutes later, Jonathan arrived, looking rumpled, weary but sharp-eyed. The kind of man who lived for the truth, not appearances. Jonathan's eyes flickered when he saw Emily, though he masked it quickly. Good to see you, Harper, he said, using her old newsroom nickname. You too, Price, she replied, a ghost of her former journalist self showing. After introductions to Diane and Marcus, we sat at the dining table. Emily described 5 years of control, isolation, and the night she was left outside in the snow. Jonathan listened without a word, then said, classic high-control dynamics. I've seen cults with less effective tactics. We need your help in 2 ways, I explained. First, the Mitchells will spin this. Having you document our side protects Emily. And second, Emily added, you've been digging into their business for years. I remember your story on the South Harbor project. Until Douglas had lunch with your publisher and it disappeared. Not the first Mitchell piece killed at the Globe, Jonathan said darkly. We have evidence, I told him carefully. Project Prometheus. Offshore accounts, bribes, environmental violations. Jonathan's eyes sharpened. How strong? Enough to trigger federal probes, Diane cut in. But for now we're holding it as leverage. There's more in Douglas's private database, I said. If we can access it, we'll have the whole picture. So you want me both as insurance against their smear campaign and to break a corruption story if we pull this off, Jonathan summarized. Exactly. I'm in. The Mitchells have dodged accountability for decades. Time someone nailed them. Marcus suddenly straightened. Movement at the mansion. Family meeting with all 3 brothers, Douglas and their attorneys. Emily frowned. How do you know? I'm monitoring their internal emails, Marcus admitted. Borderline legal but necessary. They're planning their next move, Emily muttered. Douglas won't take the restraining order quietly. Good, Diane said. Angry opponents make mistakes. We want them reactive. Jonathan pulled out a notebook. What's next? Tomorrow's evaluation counters their guardianship claim, Diane said. And we need to secure Emily's belongings, I added. Documents, personal items. They'll block it, Emily said. Douglas owns half the police. Not all, Jonathan replied. I know Lieutenant Sandra Rivera, head of the DV unit. She hates powerful men who think they're untouchable. If I ask, she might personally escort Emily. That could work, Diane agreed. But fast, before they hide or destroy anything. Marcus raised a hand. One more thing. Emily, you said Douglas's database is on a physical server. Yes. Locked closet off his office. Sons access it remotely by VPN. Marcus's eyes lit with excitement. Remote access means vulnerabilities. We might get in without setting foot there. They've got top-tier security, Emily warned. Then it'll just be more fun, Marcus said, grinning. Everyone has blind spots, Marcus said. Especially families who think money makes them untouchable. While he and Emily discussed the database, I stepped aside with Jonathan. The Mitchells will try to bury this story. They've got sway at the Globe. Jonathan nodded grimly. Then we go beyond it if we have to. I've got contacts at ProPublica and the Washington Post. Hypocrisy sells. Douglas Mitchell playing moral patriarch in public while running corruption in private? Journalistic gold. Back at the table, Emily listed what she needed from the mansion. My laptop, my grandmother's jewelry. Ryan keeps it in the safe. My passport, birth certificate, and a leather journal I hid under the window seat. You kept a journal? Asked, surprised. Not often, but enough. It documents punishments, things Douglas and Ryan said when they thought no one else would hear. That could be powerful evidence, Diane said. We'll find a way to get it, I promised. But for now we need rest. Later, as Marcus monitored the Mitchells' digital chatter, Diane reviewed filings and Jonathan made notes. I found Emily at the window. Boston's skyline glittered under the snow. You okay? I asked. I keep thinking I'll wake up back there. Why didn't I leave sooner? How did I let them erase me? Because they were experts, I said softly. They started with love, then layered conditions on it, cutting you off until control felt normal. But you survived. You recognized the final line. And you left. For the first time since the snowstorm, Emily's smile reached her eyes. The Mitchells have no idea what they've unleashed, do they? No, I said, pride swelling. But they're about to find out. Morning broke bright and sharp, the kind of day that makes everything clear. It felt fitting. The evaluation was set for 9 a.m. with Dr. Eliana Kapoor, a forensic psychiatrist with impeccable credentials. Diane reminded Emily, she isn't on our side or theirs. Be honest, be direct. Emily pulled her hair back in a simple ponytail, keeping her sweater and jeans. No more performing. No more dressing for approval. Dr. Kapoor's Cambridge office, a converted brownstone, balanced warmth with professionalism. The doctor herself reflected the same, compassionate but steady. I'll be assessing your current state, she said evenly. This will cover recent events, your history, and your decisions around marriage, Dr. Kapoor explained. Given the urgency, we'll finish in one extended session. Emily disappeared into the office while the rest of us waited. I tried to focus on paperwork, but guilt gnawed at me. Stop, Diane said quietly. I can see you blaming yourself. If you'd pushed harder, they would have spun it as proof you were controlling. She's right, Jonathan added. I reached out that first year. The replies I got were polite, scripted, clearly not from Emily. Eventually I stopped. Classic isolation tactic, Diane nodded. They didn't just cut her off from reaching out, they intercepted incoming contact too. 3 hours later, Emily emerged drained but steady. Dr. Kapoor followed, calm but with a warmth in her eyes. I'll complete my report today and send it directly to Judge Winters and Ms. Abernathy. Without breaking confidentiality, I found no evidence of the instability alleged in the Mitchell petition. Relief washed through me. Their guardianship claim had collapsed. Thank you, Emily said softly. Miss Harper, Dr. Kapoor said, honoring her request to use her birth name, I recommend ongoing therapeutic support, not because you're unstable but because healing from years of control takes time and help. I'll consider it, Emily promised. Our next stop was Lieutenant Sandra Rivera's office at Boston PD's Special Victims Unit. Jonathan's introduction had opened the door. She wasn't what I expected, petite, gentle in manner, but her eyes carried steel. Her walls were lined not with awards but with photos of survivors she'd helped. You need an escort to collect belongings from a hostile, powerful family, she said after introductions. Yes, Emily confirmed. The restraining order keeps them from me but not me from the house. I've reviewed it, Rivera said. Any officer could do this, but given the Mitchells' influence, I'll handle it personally. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. This won't be easy. People like this are most dangerous when control slips. The wealth and connections make it riskier. I understand, Emily said firmly. But I need documents, personal items, evidence. Rivera studied her, then nodded. We'll go today. Before they hide or destroy anything. While she and Emily arranged logistics, Marcus called with an update. I've found a possible entry point, Ryan's remote access. He reuses passwords, leaves devices logged in. If Emily recovers her laptop and his fingerprints are still in the browser history, I might piggyback into the database. One more reason the retrieval had to succeed. By early afternoon, our small convoy rolled toward the Mitchell estate gates. Rivera's unmarked police car in front, my Volvo behind with Emily, Diane, and me. Jonathan stayed back with Marcus, both monitoring remotely. The gates stood open, but this time our visit wasn't a surprise. Lieutenant Rivera had called ahead, notifying the Mitchells of our court-approved retrieval. Remember, Diane warned as we drove up the long driveway. No arguments. No explanations. We're here for Emily's belongings, nothing more. The mansion loomed, pristine and cold. Douglas's silver Bentley sat front and center, his way of making sure we knew he was present. He didn't need to be here, Emily muttered. He's posturing, Rivera said calmly. It doesn't change our legal right. The door opened to reveal Douglas Mitchell with Edward Harrington, the family lawyer, at his side. Ryan was conspicuously absent, no doubt to avoid violating the restraining order. Lieutenant Rivera, Douglas said coolly. This feels unnecessarily adversarial. A simple request would have sufficed. We're executing a court order, Rivera replied evenly. Miss Harper is entitled to retrieve her property. Standard procedure under a restraining order. The use of Emily's maiden name made Douglas's jaw twitch. Very well, he said tightly. Mr. Harrington will accompany you. Actually, Rivera corrected, the order specifies she may collect her property without interference. You may observe but not dictate. Douglas's mask slipped, anger flashing. This house and everything in it belongs to the Mitchells. She may take clothes and trinkets, nothing more. That's not the law, Diane countered smoothly. She retains rights to gifts, inheritances, and professional materials. I glanced at Emily, her posture straighter, her voice steady. For years they had convinced her she had no rights, no options. Now she was seeing the truth. Their power had limits. As we stepped inside, Emily's eyes swept the mansion with caution. Rivera stayed close while Diane and I followed, Douglas and Harrington trailing behind. We'll start with the bedroom, Emily said. The house looked different now, staged perfection, lifeless and rigid. Identical flower arrangements, carefully posed family portraits. No books or signs of individuality. Control disguised as elegance. The master suite showed signs of disturbance. Drawers pulled, belongings shifted. They've been through my things, Emily said quietly. Looking for the journal. Rivera took notes. Anything missing? Not obvious, Emily said, heading straight for the window seat. Emily moved straight to the bay window seat, pressing the hidden panel with practiced hands. The compartment opened. Empty. They found the journal, she muttered, disappointment flickering. Anything else? Diane asked. Emily's expression shifted. Too obvious. She crossed to the bookshelf, scanning the pristine leather spines until her fingers landed on a worn Austen. Inside, hollowed pages held a small leather notebook. She exhaled in relief. This is the real one. I kept a fake in the window seat. Smart, Rivera said with approval. We continued gathering her things. Clothes she liked, mementos, remnants of her journalism days. Douglas and Harrington hovered, silent and seething as each item went into boxes. In Ryan's office, Emily retrieved her laptop. They've probably accessed it, she warned, but Marcus said that could help him trace their network. The most tense moment came when she asked for her grandmother's jewelry from Douglas's safe. Absolutely not, Douglas snapped. My office isn't covered by your order. If the safe contains her property, it is, Rivera replied evenly. Those jewels were reappraised as family assets, Douglas countered. That's false, Diane shot back. Inherited jewelry remains separate property unless signed away. Was there an agreement, Emily? No, she said firmly. Douglas's jaw tightened, but he relented, unlocking the wall safe hidden behind a painting of the original Mitchell patriarch. Emily pulled 3 velvet cases without hesitation, pearls, emeralds, and her grandmother's wedding band. Then she froze, eyes on a locked metal box on Douglas's desk. What is it? I asked. The external drive, she whispered. It backs up the database. Douglas sensed the shift and moved toward it. We're finished. She's taken what's hers. Emily hesitated but didn't press the claim. I have what I came for, she said, her eyes silently telling me more. As we loaded the car, Douglas delivered his parting shot, voice low and sharp. This performance changes nothing. The Mitchells have survived worse than a rebellious daughter-in-law. Remember that. 5 days ago those words would have crushed her. Now she met his gaze steadily. Oh, I remember, Douglas. Every whispered conversation, every document, every lesson about a Mitchell woman's proper place. I remember it all, Emily told Douglas, her steady voice cutting through his thinly veiled threat. Something flickered in his eyes, calculation, maybe even caution, but Rivera ended it smoothly. Time to go, Miss Harper. We've completed the retrieval. In the car, Emily exhaled hard. I wasn't sure I could face him, or walk through that house without falling back. You did brilliantly, I said, pride swelling. Most of what I needed is here, she said. The journal's most important. It documents years of control. But the hard drive, I couldn't claim it. You saw it, though, I reminded her. Her eyes sharpened. And I saw Douglas's unlock pattern. He always uses the same one. That may be the key to the database. Back at the apartment, something had shifted in Emily. Each victory, each recognition of her rights, seemed to fracture the years of conditioning. Near midnight, Marcus straightened, excitement in his voice. I think I'm in. Using Emily's laptop, Ryan's cached credentials, and Douglas's unlock sequence, he had wormed into the Mitchells' network. File directories filled the screen. The Prometheus database? Emily asked, leaning in. Part of it, Marcus said, navigating with precision. Douglas keeps everything, organized by year, project, transaction type. An auditor's dream or nightmare. Can you download it all? Jonathan asked. Not without triggering alarms. But I can pull key files. Start with South Harbor, Emily said. That was the project I questioned at dinner, the one that got me punished. There has to be something big. Marcus opened the folder. Subdirectories appeared. Permits, zoning, displaced residents, compensation, and official payments. That's code for bribes, Diane said flatly. Marcus opened it. Spreadsheets listing names, dates, amounts. City councilors. Zoning officials. The head of community development. All receiving consulting fees through shell companies. Jonathan scribbled furiously. Textbook corruption. They're bribing officials to push out low-income families for luxury projects. The deeper Marcus went, the clearer it became. Project Prometheus wasn't one scheme but an entire shadow infrastructure. A machine for corruption dressed up as philanthropy. They've been doing this for decades, Emily said hollowly. Targeting vulnerable neighborhoods, paying off officials, pushing residents out, building high-end properties. And the whole time presenting themselves as ethical leaders. The hypocrisy's staggering, Jonathan muttered. But not surprising. The louder someone preaches morals, the dirtier they usually are. Marcus moved into a section labeled Insurance. Inside, dossiers on officials, rivals, journalists. Every file a potential weapon. Affairs, finances, addictions, neatly catalogued for leverage. By God, Emily whispered. It's blackmail. Do they have one on me? Jonathan asked, half joking. Marcus typed, scanning. Yes. Under media threats. He opened it. Notes on Jonathan's divorce, his son's ADHD, financial strain. Not as thick as others, but enough. They were looking for pressure points, Jonathan said, scanning his file. Ways to silence me. There's one on you too, Pauline, Marcus added, pulling up another entry. Notes on my business, my clients, and most of all my separation from Emily. They've been tracking you since before the marriage, Marcus observed. They saw you as a threat, Emily said. You're everything they hate, Independent, successful, raising me the same way. Not successfully enough, I muttered. Emily gripped my hand. Mom, don't. The fact they had to work so hard to separate us proves how strong you made me. Marcus opened another folder, labeled contingencies. Inside were response plans for every scenario. Investigations, media exposure, even family members who resisted. One file froze us. Wife management. It was a manual. Isolation tactics, financial restrictions, emotional manipulation. And each wife had a file. Emily's was the thickest. Notes on her problematic independence, her dangerous journalism background, and a 5-year roadmap to break her down. Career gone by year 3, total financial dependence by year 4, a child by year 5. They mapped my life without my consent, Emily said steadily. This isn't just control, Jonathan said, fury in his voice. It's documented psychological abuse. And exactly the evidence we need, Diane cut in. Lieutenant Rivera, standing in the doorway, agreed. Under Massachusetts law, this could qualify as coercive control. Criminal domestic violence. Can we use it? I asked. Not directly in criminal court, Diane said. But in divorce and protection hearings, yes. And once Jonathan publishes, law enforcement can act on the public record. I watched Emily as the others debated. Instead of crumbling, she looked sharper, stronger, her journalist instincts shining through. For years I thought maybe I was the problem, she said, gesturing at the screen. This proves I wasn't crazy. They really were dismantling me, systematically, deliberately. Now we end it. The Mitchells had built an empire on corruption, intimidation, and control. And the very files meant to protect their power would destroy them. The next morning, Diane walked in briskly. They've filed a cybersecurity complaint. Douglas claims his private servers were breached. As expected, Marcus said. It's vague, Diane noted. He can't admit what's in those files. Because the truth incriminates him, Emily said with clarity that made me proud. Jonathan closed his laptop with finality. Then we move first. The exposé is done. Tomorrow's front page. Digital version goes live at midnight. The Globe's on board and the Washington Post will follow. Diane was already filing amended petitions citing documented coercive control. Rivera confirmed her department was preparing to open investigations once the article created public cause. That night, as Emily finally slept, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Mrs. Harper, this is Eleanor Mitchell. Please, I need to speak with you away from Douglas. It's about Emily. I froze. Eleanor. The perfect Mitchell matriarch, Douglas's wife of 40 years. A second text followed. I know what they did to her. Because they did it to me decades ago. A third, meet me. Tonight. Before the article drops. There are things Emily should know about how far Douglas will go. Common Ground Cafe, Cambridge Street. I'll be alone. Could be real. Could be a trap. I texted back, not alone. My location, my choice. And if my story stayed with you, tap that like button and subscribe. It lets me know you're here and it helps this story reach the people who might need it most.